You think that the Beau's Afraid movie would take longer to review, but nah. I watched this movie on Friday and I'm only now getting to reviewing it. And that's because the Beau's Afraid movie exhausted me. But I'll tell you, it's because I had trouble finding flaws in this movie and only had great things to say about it because that's just how amazing this movie is. Evil Dead Rise is a movie directed by Lee Cronin, who made A Hole in the Ground, which was not very good. So that didn't give me too much hope for this movie, but the marketing made me very excited for it. And then I also watched the 2013 Evil Dead remake, which made me even more excited for it. Although I didn't particularly like the 2013 Evil Dead remake, I absolutely respected the hell out of it and knew that the concept provided by that movie could absolutely be enough for this newest one in the franchise to hit even harder. Which it did. It absolutely smacked this franchise out of the ballpark. It improved on everything that the 2013 version did not completely refine. And I will say that the 2013 one is still very much impressive in terms of its practical effects and gore in general, but Rise still does its own thing and truly produces some of the most disturbing imagery you'll see this year. Evil Dead Rise stars a family struggling to make ends meet with one of the family members discovering a book of Necromonicon, or however you say that shit. He ends up using it and regretting it, as you see in the trailer. The design of the book is really fucking cool. It's very much different from the others that you'll see throughout the franchise, because lore and whatnot. The design itself is just really cool. Look at that teeth. What? The usage of the vinyl in this movie is also really unique and brings that sense of style that separates this movie from all the others. And also, the set design, whoa. I fucking love the set design in this movie because they use the small spaces provided in such a claustrophobic way that makes you realize how close to danger everyone truly is. That sense of being trapped is heavily implied throughout the movie, and every location throughout the movie, except for the beginning, has this vibe. Which brings me to the actual intro of this movie, which has one of the best title sequences you'll see this year. Like, oh my god. You've probably seen it just because of how viral it's gone on TikTok, but it's just absolutely perfect to the point where I won't even like show you or anything like that because you need to experience it for yourself. Evil Dead Rise overall was just such an absolute thrill ride from beginning to end, with enough breathing room in the middle to not be too exhausting with its pacing. They absolutely balanced it perfectly, leading to great character interactions and dynamics being built up. I absolutely loved every main character in this movie enough to actually care about them, which slashers rarely do, but yeah. The difference between this slasher and the many others that you'll watch in general is the fact that it's a struggling family that truly anyone can relate with. You can't help but feel really bad for them when shit eventually goes down. You're able to feel bad for them in the first place because the dialogue is written in such a natural way, the direction also being a major element of why these characters work well together. We still have that dark humor that this franchise always brings, but it's never too cheesy that it makes you eye roll, but it's always fun enough to break from the tension when needed. And sometimes the humor just comes from the insane situations these people are put into. And also the dialogue of the Deadites is always going to be funny in general, but seeing where it comes from, that's what's the fun. That's what makes it really fun. The Deadite designs are also very much exaggerated, but not in a way that's distracting from the fact that they're still terrifying as hell, and they'll never cease to creep me the hell off with their movements and how they try to appeal to the rest of the family with manipulation tactics, which obviously shouldn't work, but because they look like the family members, it's really hard for the family because this is flesh and blood. Of course, they're gonna have a strong connection to all these people, which is what makes it so interesting to watch. Oh my god, the cinematography in this movie is just, it's peak. It's fucking peak. It's very reminiscent of Sam Raimi's style, but it's also still unique to its own style. There are so many cool shots that they do throughout this movie in terms of either setting up a scare or just an establishing shot. There's this one shot in the movie they utilize in such a creative way that was like truly mind-blowing to see in the theater. I'll be bringing that scene up later in the spoiler section, but like it's just an example of how much passion truly went into this movie. Just so many cool angles and the way they use the cinematography to exemplify certain scares or showcasing the crazy shit just adds to the gnarliness. And yes, I use the term gnarliness because it's a fucking gnarly ass movie. Honestly, the only flaw I can really think of is that it's nothing that you haven't seen before, but that's not really a flaw, you know, especially since it takes those basic concepts that you've seen many times before and it makes it refreshing, refreshing in terms of how unique it's shot or written, or even subverting expectations that you have when it comes to these slashers. Now, before I talk about my favorite scenes throughout this movie, you should skip to this part if you do not want spoilers. So yeah, I absolutely love the special effects throughout this movie. Even when it's not as violent as the 2013 version, there's still some really fucked up imagery that you can't deny was very cool to see. The glass eating scene being such a highlight because of the dialogue and just the cringiness of what the character is doing to themselves when eating the glass. The cheese grater scene right afterwards was also just truly haunting, to say the very least. And if you're a furry, you know. If you know, you know. The design of the final boss was a bit not good due to the CGI, but the concept was just so damn cool enough. And the way it transformed in the first place looked fucking crazy too, so honestly, I forgive the CGI for that alone. The eyeball scene, which I think everyone remembers from that movie, was very much unexpected and led to one of the most creative deaths that I've ever seen in my whole fucking life. What the fuck was that? The fact that we see the rest of the deaths in that scene through the peephole was just, what the fuck? That was so cool. That was so awe-inspiring. Whoever came up with that idea needs a goddamn raise. There were so many unique moments like that sprinkled throughout the movie, and the fact that this movie is just not afraid of truly anything. They would kill. They killed a child in this movie. I strongly respect it. It's something so valiant, and you have to at least respect that the movie is brave enough to straight up murder characters you care about. Overall, the Evil Dead Rise movie is an absolute fun and almost flawless experience. It's overall just a solid ass horror movie, and I highly recommend this movie to anyone who's interested in the horror genre, even just by a little bit, because this is exactly what we need more in terms of the movies that come out in the theaters. This is just the perfect example of great horror, and I hope to see more movies like this in the future.